Hello, boys and girls. Today we will be having a mini lesson on story elements. And to start us off and give us a little bit of information behind this, we're going to go over some key vocabulary. Our first word is story elements itself. This is the pieces or parts that make up a story. If you think of a puzzle, you have a bunch of little tiny pieces that you have to connect together to make a big picture. We can think of story elements just like this. You have different parts of the story that when you connect it together, it makes way more sense and gives you a little bit more knowledge behind the story. Our next word is plot. This is the structure behind the story's beginning, middle, and end. This is what helps us want to keep reading and want us to find out what's going on as it leads us through the beginning, middle, and end. Our next word is conflict. This is the main problem of the story. The conflict can look like a bunch of different things. It could be two characters arguing. It could be a character having their own problems. It could be a character dealing with the result of something like a natural storm or a tornado, a hurricane, something like that, something out of their control. And then we have the resolution. This is the end of the story where the main problem is solved. Every story ends with a resolution. And to start us off with story elements, we're going to go over characters. This is the who of the story. Now there are different types of characters. You can have the main character and there are side characters. The main character is the character the story tends to focus on. And these side characters are characters also in the story, but they don't get as much spotlight as the main character. And sometimes the main character is the good guy, and sometimes the main character is the bad guy. And we can have lots of different types of characters. We can have these characters, they can be animals, like Flounder. Does anyone have an example of an animal character? Those are some very good ones. And then we could also have characters. These could be people. They could be fictional people or real people. Does anyone have an example of a fictional character? Yes, this is Captain America. That is so smart. Does anyone have an example of a real character? Albert Einstein. That is very smart too. We can also have characters that are things. This is where they're not animals, they're not people, and sometimes they're not even in real life living things. For example, we have a toaster from the Brave Little Toaster. Does anyone else have an example of characters that are things, not animals and not people? The fork and the spoon. That is right. And to keep us going, our next one is story elements. This is the setting. This is where or when the story takes place. Does anyone know where or what this is? That's correct. This is the Alamo. And the when for this story, if we're talking about the Battle of the Alamo, would be 1836. Now, both of these are very important to the story because we know it takes place at the Alamo in 1836. Are there any other examples of settings in a story? New York City, that's a good example. What about when? When could these stories take place? Do they always have to take place in the past? No, they can take place in the past, they can take place right now, or they can take place way in the future. Way, way, way far away where we couldn't even think of. And our last story element is plot. This is the what of the story. This is where we have the conflict and the resolution. Every story has a beginning, middle, and end. And at the beginning of the story, we're introduced to the main characters, we're introduced to the problem and maybe a little bit of the conflict. And you can think of the plot like a roller coaster. At the beginning, it's kind of soft, it's kind of slow, it's not that interesting, let's say. And then as you go up and up and up, we're introduced to the conflict, we're introduced to more characters, we see the setting a little bit more, we get those great detail words in, and then we hit the middle of the story. And this is the height of the excitement with the plot. This is where the characters really don't know how they're gonna solve the conflict and what they're gonna do. And this is where it's most exciting, and I always find it the hardest to put the book down at this point. And then this is the most scary part, and so we're gonna go down, down, down. And this is where we find the resolution of the story. This is where those small little things fall into place, where the characters can then find the answers to the problems that they're having. And we have the end. And at the end, the majority of the characters are happy. And what do fairy tales end with? That's right, happily ever after. Thank you so much, class, for paying attention to my story elements. Thank you. Okay, class, now that we've gone over some story elements, we're gonna read a book. And this book is called The Good Egg. Have you ever been somewhere where you had to act like you were on your best behavior and super nice and super, super quiet and respectful to others? And while you were there, have the other people kind of been misbehaving? Well, that's what happens in The Good Egg. And how did it make you feel? Frustrated or mad? I could understand. Let's see how The Good Egg takes that, okay? This is The Good Egg by Jory John and Pete Oswald. To Alyssa, William, and Olive. For Allison. Oh, hello. I was just rescuing this cat. Know why? Because I'm a good egg. So we've met our first character. Are they an animal? No. A person? No. What about a thing? Yes, good job. He is a very good egg. It's true. I do all kinds of good things, like I'll carry your groceries, I'll water your plants, I'll change your tires, I'll paint your house. If you need any help whatsoever, I'm the egg. I've always been a good egg. It's been this way from the start, even in my earliest days, back at the store. There were a dozen of us living together under one recycled roof. There was Meg and Peg and Greg and Clegg and Shell and Shelly and Sheldon and Shelby and Egbert and Frank and other Frank. That's a lot. There were 11 eggs. The other 11 eggs weren't on their best behavior. They weren't exactly good. They ignored their bedtime. They only ate sugary cereal. They threw tantrums. They cried for no reason. They broke their stuff on purpose. Do you think that this is going to have anything to do with the conflict of the story, that the other eggs aren't being good eggs? Meanwhile, I tried to take charge. I tried to fix their bad behavior. I tried to keep the peace because I was a good egg, a very good egg. Look, he looks so sad. Do you think that's going to affect his relationship with the other eggs? Nobody seemed to care though. Every night I was exhausted. My head felt scrambled. Then one fateful morning, I noticed some cracks in my shell. They were everywhere. What do you think these cracks mean? That he was stressed? Yeah, that's a good answer. My doctor said it was from all the pressure I was putting on myself. The pressure of making sure everybody was as good as me. I was cracking up. Literally, something had to change. I'd had enough. I told Meg and Peg and Greg and Clegg and Shell and Shelly and Sheldon and Shelby and Egbert and Frank and other Frank that I was leaving. I can't be the only good egg in a bad carton, I said. Blah, 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 they replied. I left that night. Look, he's leaving the farmer's market and he looks so sad. Do you think that we're at the middle of the book yet? I think so. I wandered from town to town. The hours became days, the days became weeks. I lost track of time. I was alone. And it looks like he's painted little rocks to look like the other eggs. Out there on the road, under the stars, I really tried to focus on myself and what I needed. I took walks, I read books, I floated in the river, I wrote in my journal. I found simple moments to be quiet. I breathed in and I breathed out. I even started painting, and look, it kind of looks like his cracks are getting a little smaller, huh? For once, I found time for me. And guess what? Little by little, the cracks in my shells started to heal. My head no longer felt scrambled. I started to feel like myself again. Oh, look at that. His cracks are all gone. So I made a big decision. I'm returning to my old carton and my friends. Besides, I'm kind of lonely out here. This time, I know what I need to do. I'll try not to worry so much. I'll be good to my fellow eggs while also being good to myself. Here we go. Everybody missed me. I missed them too. Hello, Meg. Howdy, Peg. Hey, Greg. Greetings, Clegg. What's up, Shell? Aloha, Shelly. Heyo, Sheldon. Hi, Shelby. Good day, Egbert. What's happening, Frank? Howdy do, other Frank. And look, they made him a little poster that says, welcome home. Do you think that this time away from the good egg will be good or bad for the other eggs? Do you think they'll change their behavior? We'll have to see. Sure, every once in a while, somebody's a little bit bad, but it's not like before. Here's what I realized. The other eggs aren't perfect, and I don't have to be either. I'm okay with that. Yep, the old carton is back together. We're a solid dozen again. It's good to be home. And now we've hit the end of the book. Thank you for reading along with me.